using the classic tween as well as symbols. So you see this alien head and the whole background that I've got. Now actually, first of all, let me back up even. Symbols. What are symbols and why would you want to use them in Flash or Animate? So a symbol is any artwork that you can, well, you can actually import symbols from other things, but it's like a symbol is anything that you create that becomes part of the library. So the library is here. So I've got a whole bunch of symbols listed under my alien. I should organize my background here, but I've got a whole bunch of symbols that make up my alien. I've got the alien himself, I've got the eye pupil, I've got the mouth. Under the reference, I've got a couple. I've got a thumbnail symbol. I already showed you in one of my earlier videos how to create that reference file and import that. I've got a symbol for my actual scene. If I drill into my character, you can actually see some of these symbols. So when I drill into my scene, I've got my alien, I've got the pile here. I can see what they are. So here's the alien, here's the pile, here is the ground, and here are the mountains. Here's the sky, the reference I've got hidden behind so you can't actually see it. If I drill more into my alien, you can see what makes up the alien himself. The skull, right there, the mouth, right there, the eyeball, right there, and the pupil. That's just a mask on top of the pupil. But so that's really what makes up all my characters. So the advantage of having all these symbols, actually let me back up. So a symbol is any piece of art that goes into your library, and then you can reuse it a whole bunch of times. So if I wanted a whole bunch of aliens, I don't have to create each one of those aliens. If I want a nice treed scene, I only need to make one or two trees and then create them all as symbols. Set them all as symbols, and I can drag them into my scene, and it looks like I've got a whole forest of trees. So a symbol is something that I can reuse over and over again, and I can modify it as well. So when I use a symbol, in my scene, that's called an instance of that symbol. And an instance I can modify. I can modify every single instance to look slightly different. So for example, if I've got a couple of symbols of trees, I can pull them in and modify each and every one of those symbols to look like unique trees. But of course the base is already created for me, so I don't have to create them all from scratch. However, if I modify the symbol itself, then every one of those instances also gets modified. So the symbol is kind of the parent. If I modify that, every one of the children gets modified as well. However, I can modify the children without modifying the parent, if that makes sense. So symbols are really, really good to use. From that perspective, from an animation perspective, but also even from a practical perspective, they're good because they dramatically reduce the size of your file. So you can save a whole bunch of instances of a symbol, and it requires a whole lot less storage than saving a whole bunch of copies of things. So that's what a symbol is. And you can see how that this character here is created with a whole series of symbols, from skull, from the skull to the mouth. Keep on clicking on that too quickly. To the eyeball and to the pupil itself. Okay, so that's what a symbol is. That's why you might want to use them. Now let's talk about actually modifying this. I'm going to talk about the classic tween. So there is a motion tween in Animate. I don't like it. You're more than welcome to play with it, but I'm going to show you the classic tween, because the classic tween's been around for a long time in old Flash, and it works really, really well. So I'm not really keen to make use of the motion tween, but you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, so I need to get back out here. I want an animation of about 120 frames. So I'll create this animation, drill into my different symbols, and you'll notice that because there's no animation on my symbol itself, I need to create those same number of frames. So 120, increase, add that in there. And really, frankly, if I wanted to animate that, if I wanted to animate the eyeball itself, then I would be able to do that by going in here as well. I can actually set up those same number of frames, and now I could animate each and every part of my alien itself, from the eyeball to the mouth and all that, and everything in between. So I've got 120 frames worth of animation here. Now, I want to actually have this guy move in. So what I'm going to do, I think probably I want that animation to start around frame 16 here. So I'm going to insert a keyframe, so that's F6. You can also right click on it and insert a keyframe. but hitting F6. So I want him to start coming into the scene at frame 16, and I want him to be in place, say, around frame 30. So another so hit F6 there as well. So now, all I have to do to create a class at tween is I click anywhere on the timeline between those two keyframes, and I'm going to create a class at tween. And notice how it changes the color, it creates a little arrow there, so you can actually see that a tween, or an in-between, in classical animation terms, that's called an in-between. It's one of the in-between frames. In Flash and Animate, they've shortened that to just be called a tween. So, now I want to go back to my starting point here, and I want to actually physically move the alien head to wherever it is that it's going to come in. So if I do that, you can see just by animating that I've already created an animation. So from that initial keyframe to the end keyframe, Animate has added every individual in-between frame, or tween. That's still not very effective, so I actually want to reduce him in size as well. I want to constrain the properties so he actually stays roughly the same size. Pull him down from there maybe. Bring him up. How does that look? Is he coming in? There we go. Looks like he's coming in from the distance now. So really, really simple instance of coming in, of using a classic tween. Now, I've got this little shutter at the beginning because I actually didn't remove my symbol, but I don't need that symbol there because he's going to appear at frame 16. So I'm just going to delete him from there. And so now, my animation actually starts right there. So my alien guy comes in from that point, and I can do all sorts of other things with him. Really, I should probably be adding a shadow to give the illusion that he's kind of floating. He's a floating head. I can do all sorts of stuff with him. Really, frankly, I should be doing some squash and stretch with him. I should actually even be, actually one thing that I will do here is add some easing. Okay, so under my properties here, where is it? Oops, got to click in here. Under my properties, I've got easing set up. So if I click on the little pencil, I can actually edit my easing. And so what I want to do is create a handle so I can add a bit of an ease so that he is not so mechanical. So the little alien guy, so this is, he's going to fly in a little bit slower, and then he's going to increase in speed, and then he's going to slow down before he hits the end. So let's see how that modifies things. Yeah, see how it's increased the spacing in these middle frames and decreased the spacing in here. So now when he flies in, he's eased. So what we've done here is added a classic tween in order to modify this little character to have him coming in, looks like he's coming in from the distance. In that classic tween, we can adjust the size, we can adjust the space, or the placement of this character. We can also adjust the easing, so easing in, easing out. And I can play with that as much as I want based on all these handles, right? I can make that longer so it takes him a lot longer to come in. Let's see what the difference is there. So he's going to take a lot longer to come in, but he's going to fly in really quickly before he slows down. So if I want to play with that, so this is essentially what you do is you click on each edge, and I can pull that back. I could actually have him flying in really, really quickly and slowing down. Let's see the difference there. Yeah, so he really flies in quickly now. That's too quick. I don't actually like that at all. So I'm going to change that back. And pull this back down so he kind of eases in instead of all of a sudden appears out of nowhere. So, classic tween and easing. Yet other tools and other styles of animation in Adobe Animate.